Cable address. Jew Agency. The Jewish Agency for Palestine. Washington 8, D.C. 2210 Massachusetts. Avenue N.W. Adams 5411. March 11, 1948. Dear Sir, I am pleased to enclose herewith copies of Memorandum on Acts of Arab Aggression and Memorandum on British Policy in Palestine, which were submitted to the United Nations Palestine Commission by the Jewish Agency for Palestine on February 12 and February 21, 1948, respectively. I am certain that you will find these memoranda of great interest at this time. Sincerely yours, Isidore Hamlin, Press Officer. Enclosures. Memorandum on Acts of Arab Aggression, submitted to the United Nations Palestine Commission by the Jewish Agency for Palestine. Lake Success, New York, February 2, 1948. Memorandum on Acts of Arab Aggression to alter by force the settlement on the future government of Palestine approved by the General Assembly of the United Nations, submitted to the United Nations Palestine Commission by the Jewish Agency for Palestine. Lake Success, New York, February 2, 1948. Summary. The Jewish Agency for Palestine submits that a situation has arisen in Palestine whose continuance is likely to endanger the maintenance of international peace and security. This situation is due to an attempt by the Arab League and by the governments represented therein, in concert with the Palestine Arab Higher Committee, to alter by force the settlement envisaged by the General Assembly's resolution on the future government of Palestine, November 29, 1947, A/516. An attempt which, according to Part A of the resolution, should be determined as a threat to the peace, breach of the peace, or act of aggression. This aggression is taking three forms. A campaign of threats, incitement, and propaganda officially sponsored by the Arab League and the governments represented therein, which is designed to provoke and encourage a threat to the peace, a breach of the peace, and acts of aggression, in violation of the resolution unanimously adopted by the General Assembly, with reference to propaganda and the inciters of a new war, October 28, 1947, A/428, and of Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the Charter. B. Direct acts of aggression recently organized and sponsored by the governments of Syria and Lebanon against the Jewish population of Palestine in a manner inconsistent with the purposes and principles of the United Nations, as defined in Article 1 of the Charter, and in violation of Article 2. C. Threats and preparations for aggression in Palestine, now being made by all or several governments represented in the Arab League, in violation of Article 2 of the Charter, relating to the threat or use of force in international relations, and in a manner inconsistent with the purposes and principles of the United Nations. Introduction. In April 1947, the United Kingdom government, as the mandatory power, requested the General Assembly under Article 10 of the Charter to make a recommendation on the future government of Palestine. The General Assembly, accepting the view repeatedly expressed by the United Kingdom government that the United Nations had jurisdiction to define the form of government in the territory of the Palestine Mandate, took steps to study and investigate all matters bearing upon the situation in that country. A special session of the Page 2 General Assembly, held in April and May 1947, appointed a special committee of the United Nations to investigate all aspects of the Palestine question and present a report to the General Assembly. On September 1, 1947, after a careful investigation conducted in Palestine and Europe, the special committee presented its Report 1, which the General Assembly referred on September 23, 1947, to an ad hoc committee. This ad hoc committee appointed two subcommittees, of which one presented a resolution for a settlement by partition and economic union, and the other, composed of Arab and Muslim states, submitted a resolution for a unitary Palestinian state. The former resolution was adopted in the ad hoc committee by 25 votes to 13. The latter was rejected by 29 votes to 12. Accordingly, on November 25, 1947, the ad hoc committee presented a resolution to the General Assembly involving a settlement of the Palestine question by partition and economic union. This was adopted by the General Assembly with 33 votes in favor and 13 votes against. 2. The General Assembly appointed a five-power commission to implement its recommendation, allotted certain functions to the Trusteeship Council, and the Economic and Social Council respectively, in carrying out parts of the plan, and requested the Security Council to take action under Articles 39 and 41 of the Charter if the situation in Palestine constituted a threat to the peace. The General Assembly further requested the Security Council to determine as a threat to the peace, a breach of the peace or an act of aggression, any attempt to alter by force the settlement envisaged by this resolution. The General Assembly finally appealed to all governments and all peoples to refrain from taking action which might hamper or delay the carrying out of these recommendations. 3. The resolution adopted on November 29, 1947, was thus the result of a prolonged attempt by the United Nations to seek a solution by inquiry and negotiation. The Arab states, as well as the Arabs of Palestine, were afforded ample opportunity to submit their views and proposals to all the organs established by the United Nations to discuss the future government of Palestine. Their representatives did in fact present proposals to the Ad Hoc Committee for a constitution establishing Palestine as a unitary Arab state. Point 2. These proposals were examined, discussed, and emphatically rejected. 1. United Nations Special Committee on Palestine, Report to the General Assembly, Volume 1. 2. Ad Hoc Committee on the Palestine Question, Report of Subcommittee 2. /AC, 1430 seconds, November 11, 1947. Page 3. 4. The following pages will show that the Arab states, in concert with the Palestine era, are attempting to overthrow by force the settlement which the General Assembly has approved and to impose by force the settlement which the General Assembly has rejected. A. Propaganda and incitement designed to provoke a breach of the peace. 5. In submitting that there is a purposeful attempt by Arab governments, in conjunction with the Palestine Arab Higher Committee, to alter by force the settlement, envisaged by the General Assembly's resolution, the Jewish Agency is content to rest on the admissions of those governments themselves. The Arab League never intended to accept the results of any mediation, arbitration, or judicial settlement. When the report of the United Nations Special Committee was published, the Political Committee of the Arab League, meeting in Sofar, Lebanon, on September 16 to 19, 1947, passed resolutions which included the following threats. The committee will regard the implementation of these recommendations, i.e., the UNSCOP recommendations of the majority and minority alike, as a certain danger menacing security in Palestine and security and peace all over the Arab countries. Therefore, it has determined by all practical and effective means to resist the implementation of these recommendations. They, the Palestine Arabs, will launch a relentless war to repel this attack on their country, especially so as they know that all the Arab countries will back and assist them, supplying them with men, funds, and ammunition. 1. 6. Subsequent events in Palestine, when the Arabs did indeed launch a relentless war and were backed by men, funds, and ammunition from the Arab states, make it clear that the League statement must be regarded as a plan and not as an abstract prediction. The practical and effective means contrived and advocated by the Arab states were never envisaged as being limited by the provisions of the Charter. Indeed, the Secretary-General of the Arab League was thinking in terms which are quite remote from the lofty sentiments of San Francisco. This war, he said, will be a war of extermination and a momentous massacre, which will be spoken of like the Mongol massacres and the Crusades. 2. In his further observations, Azam Pasha outlined 3 characteristics of the future war: the belief in glorious death as a road to paradise, the opportunities of loot, and the Bedouin love of slaughter for its own sake. 1. Al-Aram, Cairo, September 21, 1947. 2. Akbar al-Yam, October 11, 1947. Page 4. 7. Azam Pasha had made his statement to an Egyptian newspaper. Jamal Husseini, for the Palestine Arab Higher Committee, deemed the United Nations a better platform for a call to arms against the Assembly's decision. The partition line proposed, he said, shall be nothing but a line of fire and blood. 1. 8. At the sessions of the General Assembly, one Arab spokesman after another enunciated his conception of the Arab states' attitude to the settlement of an international problem by international decision. The Assembly was repeatedly told that it must either ratify all Arab demands or be met with fierce and widespread violence in the Arab world. 2. 9. When the General Assembly set its own impartial judgment above this menacing clamor, and refused to subject the entire Jewish population of Palestine to the domination of a unitary Arab state, violent threat became the keynote of all Arab official utterances. It was not a propagandist campaign alone. The aim and effect of these declarations were to incite Palestine Arabs to active violence and the populations of the Arab states to active aggression in their support. On December 1, 1947, Azam Pasha made a declaration in which he said, 8. By no means shall we permit the implementation of the resolution of the United Nations to partition Palestine. We shall resist and fight off this resolution with all the means at our disposal. We have prepared an elaborate plan agreed upon by the Arab states in the meetings of the League Council. This plan is being put into effect for the last 2 months. The way of operation has been entrusted to a technical committee. The time is not a time for talk but for action. It is clear that Azam Pasha was here referring to the Arab League's decision, at Sofar in September 1947, to make Palestine a unified independent Arab state. 4. 10. The heads of Arab governments have been as active as the Arab League spokesman in provoking and encouraging threats to the peace in Palestine. Their utterances in this sense are quite unaffected by their vote in the General Assembly, condemning warlike propaganda. 1. Proceedings of Ad Hoc Committee on Palestine, November 24, 1947. 2. Speeches by Syrian delegate, November 26, 1947, and by Iraqi delegate, November 28, 1947. 3. Al-Wada, Jaffa, December 1, 1947. 4. See above, paragraph 5. Page 5. On September 22, the Iraqi premier told the press, I have requested you to prepare the Iraqi people, especially the youth, for the actions and sacrifices which may be necessitated by the situation. I now repeat this request. 1. On October 23, he declared that the Iraqi army will march and enter Palestine if the United Nations adopt partition. 2. On December 2, the Lebanese Prime Minister stated that Lebanon had started carrying out the Arab League's decision to make Palestine a unitary Arab state. He went on to say that the Lebanese army will play its part when that time comes. On January 12, 1948, the Syrian premier Jamil Mardam Bey declared to youths in Damascus, clamoring for arms to fight the Jews, that President Shukri al-Quwatli approves of the movement of Arab youth and of their readiness for jihad in defense of Arab Palestine. 3. 11. Efforts are sometimes made to portray the assistance given in Arab states to aggression in Palestine as the voluntary and spontaneous actions of excited citizens and not as formal acts of governments. Some Arab representatives, however, are too candid for this subterfuge. Thus, in the Lebanese Chamber of Deputies, the Prime Minister, Riyad al-Sol, said, I am speaking under the dome of this chamber, and in this official capacity proclaiming that we shall provide Palestine with all the arms, funds, and men we possess. 4. On December 7 he said, the Lebanese army, now on the Palestine borders, will play its part with other Arab armies in saving Palestine when the proper time comes. 5. 12. The above-quoted statements by Iraqi, Syrian, and Lebanese ministers, designed to provoke and assist aggression against the Jews of Palestine, are well matched by similar declarations on behalf of the governments of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Transjordan. Indeed, all 7 Arab states associated themselves through their prime ministers with a declaration in Cairo on December 17, 1947, in which they pledged themselves to oppose the United Nations decision by force. An announcement to the press after their consultations said, partition is illegal and the Arab governments will take decisive measures which will guarantee the defeat of partition. 6. The same announcement contained a threat by the 7 prime ministers to throw the full force of their armies into the battle until victory is achieved. The communiqué added, it now behooves the Arabs to 1. Al-Aram, September 24, 1947. Beirut, September 23, 1947. 2. Reuters, Baghdad, October 23, 1947. 3. Associated Press, Damascus, January 12, 1948. 4. Al-Aram, October 1, 1947. 5. Associated Press, Cairo, December 7, 1947. 6. United Press Cairo, December 17, 1947. Page 6. Prepare for the struggle. The decisions taken at the Cairo meeting were subsequently interpreted in separate declarations by its participants, wherein they reaffirmed the attitudes which they had already proclaimed. The Prime Minister of Lebanon then said that the Arab League had definitely decided to arm Palestine Arabs, reinforce them with volunteers, and collect a war fund to finance an all-out fight in Palestine. 1. He went on to say, "We will never sleep until we save Palestine as an independent Arab unified state. We promise you we will supply Palestine with weapons, equipment, and men. I hope you will have confidence in the leaders of the Arab League. You shall witness soon the results of their work." The Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, Emir Faisal al-Saud, declared, "We promise you to save Palestine by our souls, money, and sons. I am depending on God and you to maintain Palestine as an Arab independent state." 2. The Prime Minister of Syria, Jamil Mardam Bey, said that the time for speeches is past and the stage for action is at hand. We should all be determined to liberate Palestine by our might and money. 3. On December 6, 1947, the Yemenite representative in Cairo, Syed Ali al-Muaid, said, "The Yemenite people are all armed and all are anxious to fight for Palestine." 4. On the same day, the Prime Minister of Transjordan, Samir al-Rifai Pasha, said, "My country's forces will be allied with the rest of the Arab world to fight for Palestine." 5. 13. It would be manifestly absurd to contend in the face of these declarations that Arab governments bear no responsibility for the violence and bloodshed which have been provoked in Palestine by their propaganda and intensified by the participation of their nationals. A few weeks after the Cairo meeting, the Arab League evidently deemed it prudent to discard all pretense that violent action was not officially sponsored. Azad Dagher, press officer of the Arab League, convened a press conference at which he disclosed that the Arab League had recommended that the Arab nations occupy all Palestine with their regular armies when British troops leave Palestine. 6. 14. The Arab leaders in Palestine who acknowledge the ex-Mufti's leadership are themselves quite conscious that they may rely on the support of neighboring governments in their efforts to submerge the peace of Palestine in a rising tide of bloodshed and aggression. The adoption of the General Assembly's resolution was the signal for 1. AP Cairo, December 15, 1947. 2. AP Cairo, December 15, 1947. 3. AP Cairo, December 15, 1947. 4. AP Cairo, December 6, 1947. 5. AP Cairo, December 6, 1947. 6. AP Cairo, January 15, 1948. Page 7. Attacks on Jewish life and property, organized by the Arab Higher Committee, through its local committees and groups in towns and village areas. A leading member of the Arab Higher Committee, Emil Guri, informed 3 American journalists on December 31 of the Higher Committee's resolve to organize bloodshed in Palestine under the direction of the Arab League's military committee at Damascus, headed by General Taha al-Hashimi, former Iraq War Minister. 1. Mr. Guri continued, "Arab forces will also include volunteers from other Arab countries, and the war will start at the convenient opportunity." On the basis of these and similar official declarations, the Jewish Agency submits that the 7 states represented in the Arab League are responsible together with the Palestine Arab Higher Committee for conducting propaganda, which is designed to provoke and encourage a threat to the peace, a breach of the peace, and acts of aggression, within the terms of the General Assembly's resolution of November 29, 1947, in violation of the resolution unanimously adopted by the General Assembly, with reference to propaganda, and the inciters of a new war A/428 October 28, 1947, and in a manner inconsistent with the purposes and principles of the United Nations, as laid down in Article 1 of the Charter. B. Direct acts of aggression. Attacks organized by Syria and Lebanon against Jewish villages in North Palestine on January 9, January 14, and January 21. 15. On the morning of Friday, January 9, 1948, Arab forces from Syria attacked two Jewish villages in northern Palestine, Kfar Zold and Dan, both located near the Syrian border, some 25 miles north of Lake Tiberias. 2. A study of Arab statements in Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine during the days preceding this attempted invasion reveals the concern of Arab leaders at the scanty results of the violence which they had organized in Palestine. On December 31st, Mr. Emil Guri of the Palestine Arab Higher Committee had informed press correspondents that his only criticism of attacks by the Arabs was that they are not enough. 3. Dr. Hussein Khalidi, General Secretary of the committee, had stated that the world would soon see evidence of Arab military skill. Reliable observers had noticed an increase in the number of Palestine Liberation Committees in Syria and Lebanon. In the Katana camp near Damascus, allotted by the Syrian army to volunteers for aggression in 1. New York Herald Tribune, January 15, 1948. 2. New York Times, New York Herald Tribune, January 10, 1948. 3. New York Times, January 1, 1948.